Okay, I'm back, and now we're ready to do part 4 of the lab on the Microsoft Excel worksheet. And this is now going to be resistors in series. Okay, so it says to measure the resistance of a second resistor. So now we're going to get out a second resistor. So go back to the FET. Okay, grab another resistor. Now we want this one to have a different resistance. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to make this resistance 20. So I'm going to grab the slider and then bring it up to 20 ohms. So this is going to be resistor number 2. Resistor number 1 is going to be 10 ohms, and resistor number 2 is going to be 20 ohms. Okay, now look at the picture. I know it's kind of hard to see, but look at the picture of the circuit there underneath part 4, and there are two resistors that are hooked together with a single wire. So we're going to call that they're in series. So I'd like for you to disconnect resistor number 1 from the circuit that you built. So let's go ahead and just disconnect it. And I'm going to put resistor number 1 first, and then resistor number 2 next to it. And then I'm going to connect the two of them with a wire. So I'll get out a wire and then hook it so that the two of them are connected together like a conga line. So that you've got resistor number 1 and then a wire and then resistor number 2. So that's two resistors in series when one follows directly after the next one. Okay, so going back to Microsoft Excel, you should now have filled in under part 4, resistor number 1 is 10 ohms, and then resistor number 2 is 20 ohms. So let's go on down. Okay, then it says to compare this, let's see, it says plug it in series as in figure 22.8 with the resistor and measure the total resistance. Now unfortunately we can't do that. We can't measure the total resistance because we don't have a ohm meter. But we can calculate the total resistance. So what I'd like for you to do is if you go back up into the pre-lab part, the discussion. So if you go back to the Microsoft Excel and then you go up until you get to that green and pink box that has resistance, current, and voltage as the column headings, and then you look under series, what does it say about the total resistance? So what's the formula for the total resistance whenever you got resistors in series? Okay, so we're looking at that green and pink box that is right above where it says procedure. Okay, so for series it says that the total resistance is equal to the sum of the resistors. Okay, so what are our resistors? 10 and 20. So what's 10 plus 20? 30. Okay, so now let's go back down to the lab itself, and we're still in part 4, and down there at the bottom is the a red and a green and a purple box. So one of the boxes says resistance, one says current, and then one says voltage. And so what I'd like for you to do is, for the measured resistance for resistor number 1, you're going to put in 10. Then underneath it, for the measured resistance for resistor 2, put 20. And then underneath that, for the total, put 30. Okay? And then for the calculated, just leave that blank. Okay, so we can't do that because we don't have the correct measuring device. So just leave that column blank. Okay, now we're going to put the battery in there. So now we're going to make a circuit. So we need to have, again, a conga line. It needs to go from the first resistor to the second resistor to the battery, and then from the battery back to resistor number 1. So do that. So I'm going to cut out the ammeter for the moment, and then I'm going to connect my wires so that I've got one big circle. So it should go from the battery to resistor 1, and then to resistor 2, and then back to the battery. So one complete circuit. Okay, now let's measure the voltage. So get out your voltmeter. Do we open the circuit? No. Do not open the circuit whenever you measure a voltage. So just take the black probe and put it on one end of resistor 1, and then take the red probe, put it on the other side of resistor number 1, and what does it say? Okay, you're going to enter that under the measured voltage for resistor number 1. So in that red, green, and purple box, in the purple box under measured voltage, resistor 1, put that voltage. And it's what number? Should be 3. So put a 3 there. Alright, now take your black probe and put it on the one end of resistor number 2, and take the red probe and put it on the other end, and what do you get? 6. Notice, what do you get when you add 3 plus 6? You get 9. Does that sound familiar? The 9 volts was what's coming out of the battery. So 3 of the 9 volts goes across resistor 1, and then 6 of the volts goes across resistor number 2. So you're going to put a 6 under the measured voltage of resistor number 2. Okay, and again, don't worry about the calculated boxes yet. We'll get to that. Alright, now what we need to do is measure the current. So we need to do what? Open the circuit. So let's go ahead and click on one of the junctions, cut it open, insert the ammeter. Okay, and what current do you get? So the measured current should be 0.3 amps. And you're going to put that down for both resistor number 1 and resistor number 2. And so we'll talk about this more in the next video.